True
And
DFS.
the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at.
Oh, here we go.
It's on? Okay.
No, it says upcoming. Scheduled for 9:02, but it's already 9:03, so I don't really. Oh wait, let's. But it's still not showing up.
I want to check my.
It's not showing up in the Discord. Let's see.
Hang on. I'm trying one other thing. I'm gonna look at the other at my Twitch, which it also goes to there as well.
Yeah.
So,
oh wait, it looks like it's popping up here finally.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now it should actually be.
You think it's because it was scheduled or something?
How was it scheduled though? I never scheduled
it.
it.
Yeah, because it's on my Twitch right now, so
I don't even know how to schedule it.
I don't either. Maybe did Rody do something?
I don't think so. He hasn't touched it since we've gone. So we do have people.
Let's go. What's on right now? So
okay, it's on now, so we should be good. Let's see. It looks like it's working now. Okay, so we're good.
All right, so we talked about yesterday for like a few minutes when we thought we were online, but we really weren't. So we're just gonna head right to the different slates we have going. So we have a 1 o'clock baseball slate. We have a 6:30. Make note of that, right? PM baseball slate.
So we go live at 5:30.
Yep, we're gonna have NBA, and then we're gonna have a live sweat at 11, where we're also going to do the live PGA thing. But after we do this, I guess it's up to you whether you want to do PGA right away or do you want to do a main slate preview first.
No, I think we should do the main slate preview as a part of this if we can. I put that on the thing, but it's okay. We don't have to. I mean, if we can't get.
No, I'm ready. I just don't know we have time. But
yeah, that's fine. We'll see. I mean, let's jump into it. The good news is that a lot of the games that you're going for are not necessarily the 10 a.m. start time, and it is 10:10. It's not 10.
I think this early slate's kind of a shit show. So I'd love to be able to figure out what's going on with this thing.
Yeah. So okay, well let's go through it. Let's pull up your screen and go game by game. That's the best way we're gonna do it. I have a shit show is interesting because it's like at first glance I just feel like you're gonna have so much ownership on St. Louis, Chicago, and Seattle, and I think that there are plenty of ways to get different. So I'm very, very cool with this slate. The problem I'm running into is that I've got too many pivots. The thing is, I think there are days, and look, we get people that celebrate their Cardinals that got there and whatever in the end. But in reality, 6 innings from Wheeler, 2 runs and 3 hits. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, from Freeland. So I felt good about what we did yesterday, but today is not the day that I will be fading St. Louis. There probably will be at least some St. Louis players in all my lineups. I doubt that I end up with any 5-man stacks, but I certainly will end up with some 3- and 4-man stacks if I can find the right complementary piece, because Arena is legitimately the worst. It's great hitting weather in Colorado, and it's just hard for me to full fade these guys here. I just don't think it's the right thing. And that's sort of the general.
Well, let's go game by game, because I also want to do the pitching too, which I'm also a little confused about.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get through it. Here we go. Let's
look at Yankees Cleveland. I didn't have either of these teams hitting the hitting side of either of these teams. I wanted to ask if you knew anything about this Battenfield guy, only because he's 4,800.
Yeah, I'm playing him.
There you go.
So that's that. Look, I don't even care if he pitches 3 innings. The projections, if you look at the projections, and I'm not, you know me, Sheets, I'm not a projection slave by any means. But if you look at the projections for the scores of the pitchers, you have the highest scoring pitcher projected with Zach Wheeler at 17. I'll take the over on that. And you have a lot of wild cards who are probably going to get there, like Blake Snell, Lucas Giolito. These are the high variance pitchers, you know what I mean, that are going to have the ownership. And you're only talking about even the projection. These guys are projected to score 4 more fantasy points than Battenfield at 4,800. And they have to they don't all have to not get there. Battenfield, if you get the right pieces, can actually make it so like different. I mean, for one thing, you're different, and then you get to stack. You could feel more comfortable if you did want to stack St. Louis or Colorado, especially St. Louis. And I think that's right off the bat, like one different thing you can do. It's not the most exciting play, and there's not like I'm struggling with it because some of these guys, I expect between Sonny Gray, Giolito, Snell, and Wheeler, at least 2 of them to probably have good games. But if good games are just 20, I don't feel great about that with Canning and Cabrera. So why wouldn't we jump down? And by the way, I'll throw Logan Gilbert in the mix as a wild card tournament play as well. I think he's actually a terrific play. I don't care. Like, screw the wins for a little bit. Let's see if the best control guy in baseball can maybe hold down a pretty weak Cubs lineup. And I'm saying that after they scored 14 runs, of course. But maybe that even helps in some ways. The night into day kind of a thing. But anyway, the Bettenfield is going to be in some of my lineups. I also think I am going to have some Yankees. Yankees were one of my original pivot stacks. I think the low ownership. By the way, congrats to Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge has now reached base 44 games in a row, which is pretty incredible. But I sort of like the value you can get. Like, you got Volpe at 2,900 at leading off today. You've got Stanton at a lower price than we're used to at 4,700. Not bad hitting conditions. Aaron Judge. Oswaldo Cabrera, cheap in the outfield. If you wanted to use Frenchie Cordero, he's cheap. Now, you'd have some platoon risk. You also have Aaron Hicks, minimum cost bottom of the order. There's just a lot of ways you could do it. And I certainly like the Yankees offense is so powerful that when they're low owned, it's going to have to stand out as a really good pivot stack on this slate. Now, maybe I'm not saying you have to play them like and fade St. Louis. I'm saying maybe you play a 4-4 with them in St. Louis. Maybe you play a 5-3 with them in St. Louis, and you include your pitcher as Logan Gilbert, who's going to be 5% owned. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And good afternoon to K9. By the way, I think the correct answer for everything is we haven't figured it all out yet, what the answer is to all these questions.
I think, you know what? It's so funny. It just hit me who I'm going to be stacking today, and we'll get there. Okay,
but I still like my case. And by the way, and separately, as always, not a totally small slate, but I am never not going to play some Jose Ramirez when I'm playing multiple lineups on these kind of slates. And Jose Ramirez, even at 6K, I think is a really interesting play on the other side. I'm not getting to the Cleveland stacks, but I don't mind if you do.
Hey, can I stray for 2 minutes?
Yeah, of course.
Let's stray for 2 minutes. We have a zillion sports to get to, but I have to give kind of a trip report for a second. So I
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Bruce.
Yeah, so I am originally from New Jersey, actually, not the part of Jersey that like Bruce is from, whatever. But being from when you grow up in this part of the country, you have to almost like take sides between like Billy Joel and Bruce Springsteen. You know, like people that are from Long Island, usually like Billy Joel. People from New Jersey just like Springsteen. It's the way it is, right? And I grew up big time Springsteen fan, and I saw him all during his prime. Must have been 12, 13 shows, whatever it is, and the last time I saw him was quite a long time ago. And I actually, it's sort of depressed sometimes when you go see these people that are just like way out of their prime and struggling, whatever it is. You have a good time, but it's like a little bit, it's a little off-putting if you want to know the truth, like to see kind of the older performers. I mean, it's great that they're still doing it, whatever, but whatever. So we went, and I wasn't even going to go this time around. I mean, listen, it's a lot of money, and the guy's freaking 70. You know what I mean? Like, what am I? I want my memories of him to be like, right. Good. But Stacy actually got us tickets for our anniversary. So I'm like, wow, and she's like, she grew up in Long Island. She's Billy Joel. She didn't even like Springsteen, but we went yesterday, dude. I want to say something, okay? And I posted this like really quickly on Twitter. The guy is freaking 73. And he just brought the freaking heat for 3 hours without a single, like, even reaching for a glass of water. Like, it was just unbelievable. I mean, like, I want to, like, rejoin the gym tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, and you go and you see all these basketball players have to sit out for one day. I know it's not the same thing. You know what I mean? But it was just absolutely inspiring.
That's awesome. Yeah, I figured you were going to feel that way. I've heard a lot of things like that from this recently, and then I just think the guy, and he's got like an energy. He doesn't. I mean,
just amazing.
You could convince me he was in his 50s. Like, I mean, you really could. Anyway, it's pretty.
So in any case, back to the slate. So White Sox in Minnesota. So you mentioned these two guys, Sonny Gray and Giolito. And you have kind of like opposite recency bias going right now with these guys, I think, because you have Sonny Gray, I think, coming off of a smash performance. I'm not even looking, but I just seem to remember that.
Right.
And Giolito got shelled. But like you said, I mean, neither of them project to be all that great, and they're both gonna get owned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I were a little younger, I might do something like play Minnesota. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Giolito, as I mentioned his last time, he can get shelled. It just can happen. I just don't think I'm gonna do it.
It's good
But
hitting weather on top of it if you want to throw that out.
man. But I can be talked into it. I mean, I really could. I don't want to play either of these pitchers. I don't know why I don't want to play them. I just kind of don't.
So okay, great. They're both in the mix for me. And at the same time, I don't mind any of, like, if you wanted to take the Minnesota side of this, I think that would make a lot of sense. I don't think I can get to Chicago. And for what it's worth, I think I prefer Gray a little bit above Giolito. My idea with Giolito and Snell today is sort of just get him out of the way in one big lineup. You know what I mean? Huge upside. We know the downside. Maybe just throw him in one lineup and get the best of them. I think it's going to be a tough one. But I do think Minnesota, whether you're stacking them or not, you have like Solano leading off at 2,100, Miranda batting third at 34, Nick Gordon at 31. Buxton is a very reasonable 5,300.
Yep.
This is a stack where I could see, and maybe you complete it with like a Larnack if you wanted to go full 5-man, but I don't mind it. I really think that playing maybe 3 of them, maybe if you play a St. Louis stack, you can play 3 of the Minnesotas to go with them. I mean, and I think that's what this is going to revolve around is what do you want from, you know, your lineups, and how do you want to organize St. Louis? Because I've said every day I'm willing to just cross them off, and their ownership is going to be freaking crazy today. But I'm just not crossing them off as a whole. I just can't do it today.
You know what I didn't realize? Who's on Minnesota now is one of my MVPs from last year. I didn't realize that the Michael Taylor is now on Minnesota.
Oh yeah, your guy.
That's right.
We know who Sheets will be complete. Not that you need to get off. Used to be you want to get off the board with him because the other Royals cheap guys. Now you don't even need him to get off the board with anything. You just get the 0.1% on Michael Taylor anyway.
2K flat. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's jump over to probably one of the most interesting games of the day, the Mets
right.
and
okay. I would like to give you the boots on the ground report here. Okay.
Yeah.
It's 100 degrees here. I mean, it's not 100, but it feels like 100, and because it hasn't been that warm until like the last couple of days. Right. It seems like forever. It's 1,000,000 degrees here, and I want to play San Diego. That's my take. Snell, like you said, high upside, whatever. The Mets just seem like the type of team I don't want to play Snell against for some reason. They'll make him work, I think, a little bit more, and
that's kind of what you want, though, isn't it?
What?
They're going to make Snell work a lot.
Oh, no, I don't want to play Snell against them.
I got you.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah.
So I'm off these pitchers, and I kind of feel like playing San Diego. That's my. Again, if I look at my projections here, I have them rated like, I want to say like 9th, maybe like 7th or so. But I'm looking at the ownership, doesn't look like a lot, and I get to play Juan Soto, and I get to play all these dudes, and I'm not a big McGill guy, so that's what I want to do. I mean, look, Seattle, Chicago obviously is really good. Obviously, they're really good pivots. And we talked about Minnesota, and we can go to other teams later, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like San Diego is a good play.
Yeah, I have the same sort of general take. I do worry about Snell in this, but I also can't deny like the upside on these kind of slates. And so I'm going to have a mix of these guys in there. I don't want to play McGill, but I do, where I'm not playing Snell, have interest in the Mets. It does it doesn't feel like necessarily the right slate, especially at their prices. But you're talking about when we say no ownership and teams are like 8% owned, you're talking about guys like 2 to 3% owned at most, and that'll be just like Alonso and Marte probably. I think that getting a Mets stack because of the wildness of Snell combined with the patience of the Mets is sort of could be a recipe for disaster unless Snell's getting the first pitch over. Really, it comes down to that. Like, just is he going to get to throw first pitch strikes? But certainly don't mind Lindor, Alonso, and Marte as a mini stack, and you might have some room with your pitching today because you might have some room to spend up. So I actually am more. I feel similarly, but what I worry about with the San Diego side more is I think you end up with a little bit of a bullpen game from the Mets more than you do from San Diego. And I just would rather stack against the guy who's wild and trying to find his zone and letting him throw his 90 pitches earlier in the year than I would against the new pitcher every inning after the fourth. You know what I mean?
I didn't realize it'd be a bullpen game.
So I don't know how many pitches they're going to expect McGill to throw here. I just can't picture it's going to be all that many. It's coming back. The guy, he was injured to start the year, right? No, he ended up getting started. My bad. I missed one. I missed the starts. He actually threw 88 and 93. I guess he's more. I guess that's actually a little better than I would have thought. But so yeah, take away my bullpen statement.
Dude, you get freaking career resurgent righty smasher, leader of the free world, Matt Carpenter at 3,300.
Yeah. It's the resurgence hasn't caught up quite as much in this year, but you can play a lot of things here.
Coming back to New York after the resurgence that they gave him last year with the Yankees.
Yeah. Well, either way, it's better hitting conditions these teams have seen basically all year. So I'm fine with it. I personally, it's funny because I like Snell better than McGill, but I think I'm more likely to use the Mets than I am San Diego. I also love the splits. You get the lefty righties for the Mets are just, the Alonso, Marte, and then the stolen base upside on top of it. It just feels like a nice spot to try to attack. All right, moving on to the game that's going to be the common pivot game. And as we saw yesterday, sort of the common pivot game that gets high owned. I am going to go take a stand. If we don't want to play these other guys, you want to play a guy with some upside who when no one's going to play him. This guy literally blow the wins in sheets. And I know it's a huge difference. Don't get me wrong. But switch the wind direction, and Logan Gilbert is the highest owned pitcher on this slate. I am willing to bet on him in general. He's the most he hasn't pitched as well this year in two tough matchups back to back against Cleveland. Chicago, we know, has tons of strikeouts in the lineup. And what you love about McGill, he's actually walked 3 guys this year, which is kind of amazing. He has the record of any major league starter with the most consecutive strikes to start a game. He's really, really good, and he has really good control. So I am on the side of, look, if I can get a 5% owned pitcher again, just in a different situation than what we talked about. But hey, if he's missing bats, and he's going to pitch to some contact, but if he's missing some bats, I could see him being the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. So I'm going to take some chances on Gilbert as a way to get different, and maybe that's along with the weird play from Cleveland, their pitcher. Maybe that's how you can get in St. Louis stacks with lower ownership. And I think that's an interesting route to go. And in this game, what I struggle with is, first of all, I think both pitchers are good, in real life good. And it's been a little, the Cubs scored 14 runs and they're playing a day game after the 14 runner. It seems like the kind of spot you usually don't want to play. But it's weird that I'm looking at the ownership right now, and it's not quite as high as I thought. It's still pretty high. But you've got guys like Mancini coming off the home run game at 2,600, Bellinger's 3,100, Cal Raleigh's 3,800. These are very, very reasonable. Julio Rodriguez has really struggled lately for us, but I'm willing to go back there. Suarez heating up, Kalenic is cheap at 3K. It's a really tough to not have interest. What I tried to do in my big buy-ins, or even in my 250, but also my big buy-ins, I played Wisdom and Hap because I knew they would be low owned just based on the way the salaries were working. So if you wanted to play the guys the ones who will be lower owned will be the Hap, the Teoscar will be low owned, Wisdom will be low owned, and still have some ownership. Don't get me wrong, but that's one way to do it. And the other way you can do it is if you want to play, take a shot with Eric Hosmer because he's down towards the bottom of the order and he should be low owned. Just double checking to make sure that he's in there. Yeah, but so that's how I would get different with these stacks if I was going to make them. And it's hard for me to look at a ground ball efficient pitcher in Stroman and an incredible control pitcher in Gilbert and want to fully stack the game. So I am probably going to be a little below the field on this game. I will have some stacks, some hedge stacks, but in those stacks, I'm probably going to have the Hosmer, Wisdom and Hap, which is just going to be a very weird combination for people to have because of Mancini Bellinger's price. So I'm kind of into taking some shots here, but only like 3-man. Probably trying to keep it less than 5-man. Really, because I just respect the pitchers. And if I had to stack one side, I would stack Seattle. But I like the prices of the players on Chicago. So it's just kind of an interesting one to figure out. All right. Any other thoughts on this one, Sheets?
I do. But just hold on. Let me just. There's something else I was doing here.
No worries.
1 second.
All right, do your thing. No, I can.
No, it's fine because I did have a couple of thoughts. So every once in a while, there's a guy. Now I forget his name who comes onto New York Talk Radio and starts talking about some things. And he was a travel baseball coach from around here who trained some of the pitchers that are from this area. And two of the guys that he trained and kind of been mentoring over the years, one is Steven Matz and the other is Marcus Stroman. And he talks about them since literally these guys have been in Little League. All I'll say is this, is that after you hear this guy talk for like a half hour, 45 minutes, you literally will never want to stack anybody against Marcus Stroman.
Right.
Okay. Like this guy's good. like this, and apparently he's got potential and all this stuff. This guy, and not to mention he's got 2 freaking smash outings to start the season. So this game is coming off of 20 runs, right? These guys scored pretty much.
Yeah, 22.
2 of them. You got two pitchers who are not freaking gas cans, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be the uber popular pivot. I just kind of want to just be an ostrich, put my head in the sand, just don't play any of it, and just hope for a 6-4 or something like that, and or even a 4-3. I think it's very possible. I don't know if I can do the Gilbert per se, but I certainly am not gonna fault you for it. So, but I definitely want to try to avoid the hitting.
Yeah, and if you're going to try to get some home run stuff off of Stroman, he's really good at keeping the ball on the ground. But Cal Raleigh is like a fly ball hitter who does make some sense, and so is Eugenio Suarez, although he's a strikeout guy too. So those would be just wanted to highlight a couple of plays that could potentially hit him. But I've never stacked against Stroman in general, and probably not going to go with the full stack to start the day. May end up with 1. Okay, so Colorado and St. Louis with the great hitting weather. I'm not going to play Jack Flaherty. I actually did consider it at one moment as a way to try to get different. It's going to be crazy owned. So like the guys who currently are, we don't know who's going to be in the lineup yet for in this game for Colorado. They've got questionable Montero. But on the St. Louis side, depends on where they're hitting for one thing, but Jordan Walker is going to look like the best player on the slate. I have no problem just in general with that guy. They're all too cheap. I love Goldie and Arenado. I definitely am just trying to make non-5-mans. That's really my argument for them. I will be overweight probably on not on every St. Louis player because they're going to be like 40, 50% owned. But I am going to be overweight on them, or I'll be very high on them in general, but they'll be complementary pieces or 4-mans. I do have a hard time seeing them not get to Urena today. It's just really, really hard for me to picture. So I'm just looking to stacks to complement them in some of my lineups or them to complement some of my stacks. Favorite bats would be Goldschmidt, Arenado, and probably Jordan Walker. But I'd like to see how the lineup shakes out. And the good news we might have is maybe we don't get that information and maybe they end up with a weird lineup we got it. It's out. Sorry. Never mind. You've got no Tommy Edman in there. Jordan Walker's batting 8th, not 5th as projected. And you have Burleson who could turn into somebody else by the end of the day. But actually they're a little short on outfielders right now. Brendan Donovan. I like the whole thing through. Maybe one thing I did is I double stacked them with Milwaukee in some lineups, and I played the other Contreras in my St. Louis 4-man. You know what I mean? The Contreras from Milwaukee, just on purpose to try to get a little bit different. And then on the Rockies side, I'm okay with in general attacking Flaherty at low ownership, and that's what you're going to get today. So I actually think the Rockies are your perfect pivot. Wait, they are the lower owned pivot. Now Flaherty can be good, so it's a little nerve wracking. And the Rockies, I still have questions about them, but give me Charlie Blackmon at 4,300, sub 10% ownership. Give me Ryan McMahon around 10% ownership at second base. Give me Chris Bryant. Give me CJ Cron. I actually think the weirdest thing is the pivot might be Colorado. Now, I don't think I'll play Colorado with St. Louis, just because I think that if people do play Colorado, they're going to do it more in a game stacky type of situation because of the weather. So that's my 2 cents on this one. What do you got?
Yeah, Jack Flaherty, unfortunately, he can't find the strike zone, and this happens a lot with him. Got a bazillion walks already to start the season. I always look to make sure they don't want to just be the pitcher against Colorado just for the hell of it. But I'm not going to do this because I feel as though with all his walks that if anything else, he's going to just try to groove it a little bit more. It's not the stadium to do that. So I'm not going to be taking that shot with Flaherty. And St. Louis, look, this is going to be a broken record, but they project very, very well. Best overall play on the slate. If you're going to do that, I don't think you can play. Well, I don't even know who is going to be the highest owned pitcher. Wheeler?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you can't play Wheeler with them. That's just the way it's going to be. But if you want to play the Cardinals with, the Cleveland guy and
Gilbert.
Yeah, I mean, that you could do. Or double stack, play Stroman and Gilbert together, something like that. Hope the wind god just like reverse everything as the game starts or something like that.
Unfortunately, it's like the crazy wind in Chicago.
Oh,
today.
great. Okay.
20 miles an hour blowing out the center, of course.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, they look like really strong plays, and they're going to be really popular. And if you play them, you have to either get different with pitching or get different in your construction, like Bobby likes to do. Like you play 1, 5, 8, 9, or something like that, or play just 2 of them. You play the 1 and the 6, something like that. Play the most expensive one that's going to be the least popular. You know what I mean, or something like that. Like who's really?
There's nobody who's going to be unpopular from St. Louis.
I guess not.
It's going to be the most condensed. This is the best projection a team's had this season. It's not going to be forever, but it might be a little while because when you're rating the pitches at home during the day and the weather is blowing out, it's basically going to be like the nut spot. And look, there are times we saw it happen against the Dodgers that one time last year where he put 7 shutout innings against the Dodgers.
He did, didn't he?
He also had 9 line drives that people were right at people and things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Bases loaded and line drive to third for a double play. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's just going to be hard to stack them profitably as a 5-man. But you could use some of these other 3-mans that I mentioned that are going to be unowned, like the Yankees, like the Mets. Those if you're going to make that big play for them, I think getting those guys in. But I'm sort of just playing a couple of them to 1 to 4 in every lineup. And even the 1 makes me nervous. It's just that I think there's some other teams that can do some damage on this slate. So let's jump over to one of those games because I think this is another interesting spot. I will say for the pitchers here, that Jameson, it's just because take just the projections, okay? He and the Indians pitcher combined for a 23 fantasy point projection. The top 2 pitchers on the slate combined for a 33 fantasy point projection. Now, yes, some of them are going to have extreme games, but when you look at it from that point of view, it's kind of interesting the idea of if I was going to take the 4-man St. Louis way or even the 5-man, can I get away with playing something like this? And Milwaukee showed last night, yes, you can. They are willing to be terrible offensively, and they're going to be at times. They don't walk a lot. They have some power, but it's sort of streaky. They have a weird lineup. Having said all this, I don't know how long Jameson sticks around. It probably turns into a bullpen game, but I'm just throwing it out there as ways to get different. In terms of hitting, though, I actually think you've got a pretty good case here for Milwaukee. The problem is the roof is closed, but Junk is not going to pitch that long, I don't think, on his first start. But I think a very low-owned St. Louis stack with guys who can, like Luke Voit at first base with 2,500 who can hit the ball out anywhere. Luke Voit, Mike Brousseau with a huge game last night. 2,100. You could play Voit and Brousseau. You play these cheap, low-owned guys with the Cardinals. Maybe that's another thing you could consider. So a little bit higher on Milwaukee than I am on Arizona, but open to both of these teams.
Yeah, I don't know if James. I mean, I'm getting some Jameson too. I don't know if he's going to pitch long enough to get a win. I mean, it's
probably not long enough to get a win, but he doesn't need a win. Like you're.
I almost kind of want to save the 2,000 and play the Cleveland guy if I'm going to do that.
Right. Well, what I was suggesting was playing them together.
Oh God. Okay.
Not really that crazy. I mean, you just need things to be going well. And as I said,
I totally get it.
It's just the Cardinals only having one hit and get BABIP on your side through 3 or 4 innings, and that's it. Then he might go 5, or 6. But it's just a guy to talk. It's just talking about different ways to get different. I'm probably not going to be able to pull that trigger, but it's just something across my mind. What do you think of the hitting though?
Yeah, I didn't quite get to them today. Just I would say better pivots. I just other things I want to do. So Philly against Miami, I imagine Wheeler's the best play. I wonder though if Cabrera isn't a really good play too.
I've watched Philly like too long now, and I just unless I have to, I don't like playing pitchers against them. I don't think Cabrera is all that bad. I just think that they're tough, man. It's a tough team to get through. They put up 1 million runs, it feels like, every day. The hitter's approach is like better just as a group. I noticed it like going into the playoffs last year, and they don't have like the strongest version of their lineup here, but it's still tough enough. Turner, Schwarber, Real Muto, Baum has been hot, Bryson Stott leading out. Like, I just think that it's going to be tough. I actually think the Phillies are another one of the teams that I would consider. Just because, but I am having trouble getting to Cabrera because at that price, and sort of like Jameson, like I guess if we're going to talk about Jameson, he's a better play than Jameson on his face for sure. But once you get to 73, like, can't you just get to 8 for the upside, like the super upside guys who are in a little better matchups than these guys? But yeah, I do have Wheeler as the number 1 anyway.
Maybe we're just supposed to play Cleveland like you thought of earlier.
I think the Yankees were who I was a little bit higher on, but yeah, not so much Cleveland for me, but the Yankees I am high on.
All right, Washington, LA. This is my hero, man. What's wrong with Mackenzie Gore?
No issues
in Colorado. He put up 20 for me like a freaking champion. I mean, he was amazing. Gave up 1 stupid home run. Otherwise, it would have been even better than that. And he's like the only like good player on Washington, I think. I think.
And don't forget, the Angels have just let everybody down over and over again. Like as they always do.
So I like both. I like both these pitchers, I guess. I have my Gore projection has him like 10 fantasy points or something like that. I don't quite get that. So I don't mind him. Canning, he's coming off the DL, so you're never quite sure what he's going to do. I presume they pitch him. I mean, they're against freaking Nationals. You know what I mean? Give him a break, let him play. So I like both these pitchers, and yet on the other hand, do I like the other sides of these games? I was going to say the Angels. Actually, they projected as kind of a decent pivot off that, which would be actually pretty freaking awesome, right? If they just completely just disappointed everybody, and then they're going up against Gore, who's coming off of a great game in Colorado, and this is the game the Angels go off. That'd be fun. That's actually kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah, I'm curious. They tend to give Shohei like time off after I think his usual day that he misses is the day after he starts.
Okay, that's interesting.
So that could end up being a problem for them. Yeah, I actually think that they're going to have a little more ownership than people think. Trout will be owned for sure, but I mean, look, we could say the things about Mackenzie Gore, but there's, we'll get into it when we talk about the later slate. There's a wide range of outcomes, and the Angels absolutely could tattoo him here. It's nice when you're playing when the Angels play and the wind's blowing out and it's a nice day. It's a lot easier to want to take a stack of them than these 60-degree, 50-degree games. where there's no wind or anything. So I'm okay with the Angels, and I am not on Canning personally. Look, I named some pitchers that I like to get different with. Why am I going to take a guy coming off the injured list who pitched okay in single A and his comeback things? Like, not for me. High ownership, maybe he ends up the second highest owned pitcher on the slate. Pass. Will he end up in one lineup of mine? Maybe, but I don't think that I'm certainly not going to prioritize Griffin Canning as chalk coming off of the injured list. I just am not going to do it. If it beats me, it beats me. But most of my big buy-in lineups, I don't think he'll be in any of my big buy-ins. So with that said, I do have to build some lineups. But what I'm going to do is we still don't have lineups out for a lot of these teams. So I'm gonna do my early look thing here and send it into our Discord. But I'm going to have to make some adjustments because there's some guys who are not in the lineup that we're projected to be. So I still have a lot of stuff to do here. So maybe you were right, Sheets. Maybe we turn it into the later thing.
Want to come back at like 1 o'clock?
I think we come back at 1 o'clock and finish our build. Yeah, and and do the main thing.
Yeah, so
it'll be quick.
Let's come back at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And then we'll discuss the main baseball slate.
That's right. And then we go to golf.
Yep. All right. Sounds good.
Sounds great. All right. Bye-bye.